Welcome to Sustainability for Sinners, a non-judgmental, informative and hopefully helpful place you can learn about sustainability. I focus on health, water, food, energy, antibiotics, detoxifying your life and much, much more. If you like what you hear, then go ahead and hit the follow button. Enjoy! Katie, welcome. Thanks so much for joining. This
Thanks
is
for
an
having
old
me.
friend of mine from Australia.
Yes. American in Australia, though.
American and Australian.
Yeah.
I don't know, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Or how do we do this
Yeah,
best?
sure. Yep. So my name is Katie Delimon. I am an author of a book called Trust the Flames. It's my memoir. I am also a somatic coach, and somatic means working with connecting the mind and body. Somatic means body. And I also teach some yoga. I'm a Reiki practitioner, and I love all things health and wellness and holistic healing.
Lovely. That's a lot of hats to be carrying.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anything, I mean, I used to call myself a mindfulness expert, but the word mindfulness, and we'll get into it, has kind of been, I don't know, washed down. And it's a buzzword, but it also doesn't have a lot of value anymore.
That's gonna play right into the questions I'm gonna ask you.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
so the
I think it
first,
has a lot of value, but I don't think a lot of people value it as much.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, you said something about um in our emails. What is it? 97% of people think they're practicing mindfulness, but only 10 to 15% of people actually are.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe you could go into that actually, just
Yeah.
as a nice
Yeah.
start off.
So mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention in the present moment without judgment. That doesn't mean judgment doesn't come up. It just means you don't go into the story about it. But it's the awareness that arises from paying attention. And so 97% of people think they're self-aware when really only about 10 to 15% of people actually are. So just because you're alive, you're breathing, and you're conscious and you're paying attention, that doesn't mean you're actually practicing mindfulness. And a very easy example is when somebody's speaking, are you already thinking about what you're going to say? Or are you actually actively listening? So
Hmm.
I would say more often than not, we're probably just thinking about us, what we're going to say, what's going on around us. We're not really actively listening. And so there is a distinction between being like thinking that you're paying attention and being aware and actually being mindful.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm sure that frees up a lot of whatever head clutter if you actually manage to be mindful, then probably calms you down a lot, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, the subtitle of my book is called My Wild Ride from Mindlessness to Mindfulness, because I thought I was mindful for so many years. I was reading all the Buddhist books for 10 years. I was like reading about meditation and mindfulness, and I thought I was like on a psychology level, I really understood it. And then when I actually started practicing meditation, I was like, oh, I have never known any of this before. Like it was all very new.
Wow, that long and you didn't realize it. Um, so what type of meditations do you do, or is it in line with like I don't know. See, like I know mindfulness through the media more than anything as well. And even my mother said it lately, we should all practice a bit more mindfulness. And I was like, yeah, okay. So it's literally across the board, everyone knows to be more mindful, but I've never really looked into like what the the guidance of it is. Is it
Mhm.
specific meditations that have been suggested, or is it everyone can find their own way? Um, do you want
Yeah,
to?
I can very easily elaborate on that. So Mindfulness, like I said, is the awareness that arises from paying attention. You don't have to be seated in meditation for it. You can practice things mindfully. So you can do the
Mhm.
dishes mindfully. You can, all the care chores in the house. You can drive more mindfully. You can always add more mindfulness into anything you do. But it does, like I said, it requires you to pay attention in the moment and without judgment. So this doesn't mean that judgment doesn't come up, but you don't get lost in the story and you become the
Mhm.
observer. So
Mhm.
an easy way I have people to experience mindfulness really quickly is I want you to just close your eyes and say, I love jelly beans to yourself 10 times. Do it really quick. It'll take about 20 seconds. Do it. Just like
Do
I
you want
want
me
you to
to,
do this. Yeah, yeah. I want you
do
to
I
do this
say it
little
out
experiment.
loud or do I just,
You just
no?
say it to yourself. Just I love
Okay.
jelly beans. I love jelly beans.
I
And
love
you can,
jelly beans. I love jelly beans. I love jelly beans. I do love jelly beans. I love jelly beans. I love jelly beans. I love jelly beans.
okay, that's
I love
probably
jelly
enough
beans.
for you to notice. So, did
Yeah.
you notice you got to a certain point where you started to observe yourself say, like at first you were like, I'm saying it. Then you were like,
Hmm.
I'm watching myself say it. Then you started to notice how you're saying it. You might have got a little self-conscious that you were saying it on the screen. You were
Oh,
starting
totally.
to, yeah, you
Yeah.
started to notice you speaking. You
Yeah.
started to become the observer. So this is like kind of like where you zoom out and you actually watch yourself do the things or and listen to yourself.
Hmm.
And it's a little hard to obviously for somebody who's just watching this, but when you experience mindfulness, it's like trying to understand what wet feels like by reading the word water. You can't.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
can't, you have to experience it. So, yes, you can do it in formal meditation. You could be seated, you could be lying down. I personally have done
Yeah.
a lot of Vipassana retreats.
Oh,
And
that's, yeah,
yes, so
cool.
those are the 10-day silent retreats. And you basically just do mindfulness meditation. They don't call it that, but that's essentially what it is. So you just keep bringing your attention back, bring it back, bring it back.
Hmm.
But you can also do things informally. So, like I said before, the care chores, um, and we'll get into it about the book, but mindfulness has really helped me find magic in the minutia, like to
Hmm.
literally try to do as much as I can mindfully. So I always say, like, if you measured your day on your presence instead of your productivity will skyrocket, guaranteed. The reason why we are not productive is because we're not present.
Hmm.
We're distracted.
Our
Like,
attention has been robbed
yes,
or stolen away from us. Yeah.
yeah. But mindfulness trains the brain. So, all the studies in the monks and mindfulness and all this stuff, it shows that when you constantly bring your attention back, bring your attention back, bring your attention back, it strengthens the parts of the brain that help you when
Hmm.
you get distracted to come back, to come back, to come back. Because the present moment we know is the only moment we have, and it's the most
Yeah.
important. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
You build the muscle of it.
you build the muscle. Literally, this
Yours
like,
must be quite strong now.
well, I do say every time like you practice, you're like doing bicep curls for the brain. And I can
Yeah.
definitely say that my brain is a lot stronger than it used to be. Like I never remembered anything before. And now,
Okay.
like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Memory's a lot better. It's just about being present, and my focus is so much better.
You have you ever heard of Johann Hari's book? We were
Stolen
talking about it in
focus.
the email.
Yeah.
Stolen Focus for anyone who hasn't heard
Yep.
of it. I feel like it's sweeping the world at the moment, this kind of notion that we're way too connected to social media and like I think everyone's actually realizing it more and more that it's probably not good for our quality of life to be just constantly, that mindless thing of I did it yesterday as well, where I just went into Instagram without like I had already checked it or looked at it a while back, but I just did this kind of auto mechanism board for a second, and I went straight to check in the app, and it's driving me nuts because I just don't like that feeling that it's got this auto control on me. And the worst thing is when it goes when say there's nothing there that's of interest, or there's no message replies or whatever, and you're kind of it's an empty feeling. Like you come out with
Mm.
minus points of that little bit of a scroll that you could have done without. Um, do
It's
you
toying
have?
with our dopamine for sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
It's yeah, I mean, there are apps that you can use to lock it and give
Mm-hmm.
yourself a certain amount of screen time. I was using Taskfulness for a while. And
Okay.
I mean, I mean, it comes back to, I mean, boundaries. Like internal boundaries
Yeah,
is a real thing. And
yeah.
it's, we can use the excuse all the day, oh, the phone and the modern world. It's like, no, but we're still in control of ourselves. I,
Yeah.
you know, Technology is a tool. You can either use it as a tool or let it use you as a tool. Your
Mm-hmm.
choice.
Yeah.
And, people, I think when we use the excuse of, oh, the modern day and all the technology stuff, that's really kind of like the victim mentality, I think.
Interesting. Uh, yeah, and I guess if you're in that mentality, you feel like you have no agency over it. Like you feel like you can't
Learned
do anything. You're
helplessness.
just like, yeah, yeah, learned helpless. Yeah.
It's
I
like,
do
no,
feel
we
like,
do have all the control. We just
yeah,
need
you have
to
to
actually
push back.
believe that.
Yeah. And probably see other people doing it. You know,
Yeah.
if you see Katie Delimon knows how to not engage in social media unless she wants to, and for the right reasons, and doesn't feel empty afterwards. You go, oh, maybe I can do that too. Maybe I can actually break free from it.
Well, I
I,
think I'm human, so I still get those imposter syndromes, the comparisons, the
mhm,
dopamine hits, the addiction, um, the scatteredness from being on the phone more, blah blah blah. Definitely,
mhm,
I'm still human. That still definitely is, a part of my life, but it doesn't consume my life. And I don't feel like I'm out of control because of it. And as much as if I do feel like I'm getting more scattered or less focused, I will then put more better boundaries in place. And I
mhm,
also make up for it on the human side. So like I have really great human connections that are very deep, very meaningful, and I make a very strong point in my life to keep those human connections there. Um, I will never be reliant on my friends on social media. Like,
mhm.
I think I'm thankfully of an age where I've built, family, friends, community who are real and in real life. So I've feel very lucky, but I also know it's not by chance. I've intentionally created that for myself.
Lovely. Yeah, when you were saying that, the community just kept shouting out in my mind, like just that feeling of being connected to other people that you don't. I feel like I've been through the different phases, like you were
Mm,
describing, of like just being busy at work, so, like r racked up busy, that you're not actually close to people as much as you should be. And
mm.
then, these people that live longer lives, apparently a lot of it in the blue zones is all about connection to the people. It's not about the diet or anything. It's more your social connection around you. And
And it doesn't have to be family. It just, you
yeah,
have
you
to
can create,
feel
or
like
you
you're a
can
part
create
of
your own kind
something.
of family of
Exactly.
something. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I actually, I've always joked, like in my 20s, I'm now 39, that I wanted to buy like property and then have all my friends build houses, like live on a compound.
Commune. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, exactly. I used to joke about it, and I literally manifested basically my own compound. So we live in an apartment complex in Brisbane in New Farm, and it's like my favorite suburb of the city. And there's only 6 apartment blocks, and we are super
Yeah.
close with everybody. We have fires outside all the time in the winter. Like we're just popping to each other's houses if we have a group text if you
It's
need
amazing.
anything. Like I feel like I live in a compound. It almost feels like I'm back
Yeah.
in college, but like with adults and children, and it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, you're nailing exactly what I've kind of also thought over the last while. Just that a lovely community around you of different age groups, just how it naturally is supposed to be, you know?
Yeah.
Not just if you're in whatever, an office job in the city, you're hanging around your own demographic. It's like just office people. And then the only glimpse you have of kind of regular life is going home to your family, maybe, which is completely a world of difference. But if you highlight it like that, um, yeah, and I think it's amazing that you built that. Brilliant. You
Yeah.
don't hear
Just being
too
friends
much of
with your
that.
neighbors. No, I think
Yeah.
some parts of Australia, like people are pretty friendly with their neighbors, but you don't hear it very much anymore. Like people don't know their
Mm.
neighbors or they think their neighbors are crazy or something. And, you know,
Yeah.
to each their own. But um, yeah, I've always like wanted that that community feel where I live.
Hmm.
Um, and that's why, like, to me, it blew my mind during COVID that we ran out of toilet paper. I'm like, since when are we too proud to ask our neighbor or a random stranger for toilet paper?
Yeah.
Like, that's when you know there's something wrong. Like, we're too proud to ask for paper.
Yeah,
Like,
disconnected from one
that to me
another.
was more of an issue than everything. I'm like, this is how are we like, we're afraid to ask a random person for something like that. Like that to me means there's something really wrong socially and culturally that we've gotten to that
Hmm.
point where we're too proud to ask for help for
Yeah,
toilet paper.
yeah.
It's not like we're asking for $1 million. It's like,
I don't know,
wow.
Katie, if the toilet paper rolls are scarce in the house, they might be closing the
Hey,
door on you.
I mean, you could just have like a limit of 2 or 3 squares, you know? You
Oh
just
yeah.
got to ration. We
Yeah.
can work
Well,
together.
especially if someone in your house, in your building went in and did the bulk buying to take all the toilet paper off everyone else, then they might have a bit to go around.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
No,
Yeah.
you know what you were saying about the community as well. I lived in Germany after we probably saw each other last. My first job was in my first corporate job that I studied in was in February 2011. So I had just left Australia,
Hmm.
and um, talk about a strange transition as well from, Bondi Beach, everyone dressed in colors, flip-flops and everything, to Frankfurt, Germany, which is kind of like a financial hub of Europe, say it has the European Central Bank,
Mm,
and it was so cold, and everyone was just wearing black and dark clothes, and it was so serious, and I just got used to that. Like I got used to it, but it was such a like a culture shock. Um,
mm.
and yeah, I don't know that I didn't know my neighbors in my apartment buildings for 10 years. Like like the odd one that would take a parcel for you, and mm, yeah, like maybe one person per building, but like
Mhm.
nothing big, which is unfortunate. And because I'm sure they are there. But you can feel very disconnected in a city with a lot of people, and you're on your own in a building, and your next friends or whoever are a few stops away.
Yeah,
That's unfortunate.
yeah.
Um, and then when I came home to Ireland, uh, like I'm from a small town here, um, uh, and we live out rurally there, so like 2 miles outside of this town. and like you just see the thriving community there, you know.
Mm,
And like Charles Eisenstein talks about a gift culture. Like people
mm,
are just like giving each other gifts of things, you know,
mm,
and like with no transaction in their mind. Like, hey, I make honey. Here's some honey. Here,
yeah.
I'm a sheep farmer or whatever. People are dropping stuff into each other. It's lovely, and they take care of one another, and you're like
Mm,
you feel part of something. So
yeah.
that's what you're describing there, and I feel like we don't talk about that enough. That's when you see people that feel a bit lost or don't or disconnected,
Mm,
um, and they go into their phone trying to
mhm,
figure it out via this tool to like, hey, you're feeling empty, do this, do that. And they
mhm.
don't talk enough about leaving the phone down and connecting with people and building that community if you don't have it, which is entirely possible without family, you know, anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I live a million miles away from my family. I'm all the way in. I always say if you drilled a
Yeah.
hole through the Hudson, New York River, you'd probably come out in the Sydney Harbor. That's how opposite it is on this other side of the world, I feel. Um,
Yeah.
and and look, I've always moved my whole life. I'm quite a like a traveler, and so it has come very natural for me to find groups and community and friends. But again, I don't think that's a coincidence, and I don't think that's any sort of luck. It's because I've always been very intentional about it, and quality time is one of my love languages. But and I think because, I do have a bit of a colorful family story, I've always felt like my friends were more like my family in a sense. I love my family, but I was
Hmm.
never, I guess, super close to them in that way. And so I've always made friends and communities anywhere in the world I went. Like I studied abroad in Milan, I've lived in New York, I've lived in LA, I've lived in West Virginia, I lived in New Jersey, I've lived in Sydney, I've lived in Brisbane. Like I've moved a lot in my life and I've always found and made friends, period. And I've
Awesome.
always felt like connected to people, even when I was traveling abroad in Southeast Asia by myself. I didn't talk to a lot of people, but I never felt like I couldn't connect with anybody. I kind
Hmm.
of kept to myself because that's how I am when I travel by myself. But I never felt like, oh, I'm so lonely and I don't have anybody to talk to. And, like I've always felt like, well, if I wanted to connect with somebody, I could, but I want to
Yeah.
keep to myself. So I think yeah, it's because we know that isolation is like equivalent to smoking 2 packs a day, I think it is.
Yeah.
It's a
Christ.
really big epidemic of loneliness, and
Mm.
especially the older people who don't have the availability to get out and socialize.
Mm.
It's really bad for your health. So, we can talk about all the things that are really bad, but like actually being alone and lonely and feeling that way is very bad for your health.
Sad. Um, there was a lady that in Frankfurt where I lived for 5 years in the same place, and she
Mm,
never left the apartment, and she just stand looking out the window. I was like, damn it. Whatever happened there, very unfortunate.
mm.
Maybe it's a fear of the outside world, you know. You can be
Agoraphobia
robbed,
is real.
anything can happen. But you're
Hmm.
just going, oh my God, I've never seen anyone enter that place and just her on her own there. That's like, sorry to say, but that's a miserable existence, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, yeah, you're definitely right that being around people that, uh, yeah, your community, people that you love, they love you, you have fun times, you feel protected in a way. That's all the good, wholesome stuff that I think people are missing when they get caught up in the rat race
mm,
and focus too much on, say, career or I'm not
Mhm.
saying this lady in the house focused on her career. That's why she ended up
Mhm.
there. But
It
it's
could have
it's
been,
that
an online, you know,
she could
who
have been an
knows? She
investment
could have had an
banker.
online business.
Yeah,
There you
yeah,
go.
she could.
Trading day
Yeah,
and night.
yeah, yeah. Around the
Mm,
clock, trading with the
right.
stock markets in Sydney and in Australia.
US and
Um, yeah, no, it's
yeah.
cool that you see that because I feel like a lot of people they don't talk about it enough, and the people who have it don't realize they have it. You know, if you're in a community, and it's never changed, like say the people that have never left their hometown, but they don't realize how well they how good they have it with the people around them. They know. And then the people
Yeah.
in the cities, they're so consumed by the idea maybe that um, their office job and everything is so important and great and it's the right direction to be going that they've blocked out the
Mm,
community element. And that's exactly what's missing
hmm.
for them. It's exactly the thing that the void that they're looking to fill that they don't have, you know, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate. And it can be easily changed, right? Like you can build that
It
community.
can. I mean, yeah. And I think the most important part is, though, that if you're trying to fill a void with a community or social, that's probably that wrong, not wrong, but probably not the right energy to attract a community that's going to be, because they're not
Yes.
trying there to like fix you or, help you in this way or make you try to feel better about yourself. It's like you should already feel whole to begin with. And then when you find
Mm.
other people who feel whole, that's how that community vibe feels. It's not, oh, I'm so broken or I'm so damaged and I
Fix
need
me.
fixed and
Yeah.
helped. And it's coming from a bit of like desperation energy.
Yeah.
Um, or people are, quite I mean, look, people can get very easily personally offended as well. I think that's another thing, that people take things very personally. And when 99% of things are not very personal at all, it's all about the other person. And
Hmm.
so there can, be those dynamics that you deal with. And also, I think it's also really hard as you get older. And if you move to cities, say like you move to New York, where there's a lot of drinking culture and you don't really drink, it is
Yeah.
probably going to be a little bit harder to find your people. So this is where you have to get creative and you have
Hmm.
to start to do the things that you really enjoy and then see if you can find
Like-minded
some
people.
exactly like go to if
Yeah.
yoga like I'm a yoga teacher, so I've met a lot of yogis or people who are interested in that sort of stuff, so
Hmm.
that always helps.
That does. And it feels like you're not going nuts. You know,
Yeah.
if you have a certain way, a mind about I don't know, environmental protection or whatever it is, or and you're not around people that care about it, then say your friends that you grew up with, they we all maybe develop in a different way. Still, we're still buddies, but there's certain people that are really on the same wavelength with whatever you say, yoga, or by the way, I did the yoga teaching training course as well, the 200-hour
Oh,
one.
nice.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just never,
really.
I thought at one point I might actually become a yoga teacher, but that didn't. I realized I'd be terrible at it.
Did you do it
But
in Dublin?
no, Mexico in Tulum.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a transition phase of
Mm.
leaving maybe the typical corporate culture behind, and then wondering what could I do? Maybe it's yoga. I don't think it's yoga now, but for a while I definitely entertained the thought of it.
Yeah.
Do
Well,
you teach much?
most people, I do teach probably about 10 classes, 8 to 10 classes a week.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
Most people who Yeah, I do mostly just well, only corporates and privates. So,
Okay.
yeah, sometimes it's 6 classes, 8 classes, but max 10. Um, and now most people who do yoga teacher training actually don't teach, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like
Yeah.
it's about the self-study, the practice.
Yeah. Yeah, and um just getting very good at those poses was kind of a motivation as well. And maybe I had a lot of back pain at the time.
Mm.
So I kind of thought, hey, yoga could be the exact thing that I need for this. Turns out it
Did
was
it help your
part
back?
of the no. I I think and but like yoga definitely helped me in the busiest phases of my life. Like it serves a huge purpose, but um my um rebalancing my body, like I had a anterior pelvic tilt or whatever you want to call it. The pelvis was tilted so that you had to realign all the muscles, grow, um, make the one stronger and make the other ones not work as hard.
Yep.
So I found that yoga actually probably overstretched the already weak muscles if you weren't aware of when to stop, you
Yeah.
know? So like you can keep going into a pose if you're particularly flexible and say I could really push into something hard, but what I didn't realize is I was pushing into the weakest muscle that needed the least amount of stretching, and the
Mm,
other side probably did need it. So I think it works really well, and uh, but in combination and doing it mindfully, where
mm,
you don't go too mad on the part that
mhm.
you can stretch out the most, you know?
Well, you
Um,
gotta know the difference between your ego and your soul. And your ego is always trying to sort of prove something and be better and
hmm
and feel like it's almost lacking something, where that soul or the love and the fear, whatever you want to call it, your soul is pretty much content with just being and doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. So, I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of yoga practices that sometimes walk that line of the ego
hmm hmm
of
Uh,
like, what do you have to prove? And like,
yeah.
it's not about how you look, it's about how you feel.
Don't be a yoga bro.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah, it's all about the breath.
Yeah. Uh, it sounds like that with a lot of hobbies as well. That
Mm.
say if I'd categorize that as obviously a fitness thing as well, but also a hobby where you kind of decompress from this busy, stressful world.
Yep.
And I think people might approach hobbies in that way of like, I want to build the best thing I can or paint the best thing I can instead of looking at it like the time out. Who cares what you create in that time? Just it's important that you enjoy it. And it doesn't matter
It's
about the end product.
well, that's what is that book? Not the Art of War, the War of Art. It's
But
like
Stephen
not the
Pressfield.
one. Yes.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like just make stuff to make stuff. Just move your body to move your body. Just
Yeah.
breathe to breathe. Like it's the same thing with art. Like I stretch every single day, not because I have to or make myself. It's because my body needs it. My body wants it. And
Mm-hmm.
I almost don't have control a lot of the times. I find myself stretching and I'm like, how did I even get here? Like your
Yeah.
body just needs it. And I always say
Yeah,
like
yeah.
sitting is the new smoking and stretching is the new flexing.
100%.
The
100%.
body needs to stretch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody needs it. I don't care what you do all day. You need it, period.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Even observing like dogs and cats, they're always stretching. Like they get up and they do
Yes.
this huge stretch. And like I work on a farm, so um, if you're like new calves, if you're concerned about their health, you're always watching when they get up. Do they do this? And they do this kind of ah, and that's a good sign, that they're it's a like a
Yeah.
very healthy sign to watch out for. Um, And I've started, you know, like when you were a child, you'd wake up and you'd do this big kind of morning stretch, like
Mm,
stretch away. I've started doing that again, and I think that's like say a mindful thing to do to just before you get up, go, ah, yeah. And then
mhm.
it feels like that's one of the releases that you need from our busy lives and sitting down a lot.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah,
absolutely.
stretching is huge. The right stretching though, you know? Um,
Yeah, you don't want to, because hypermobility is a huge thing. And so
uh-huh.
when your joints are more mobile or more like you can, it's like a blessing and a curse. So you look really flexible and you are really flexible, but you're
Hmm.
overextending your joints and your muscles. So it can cause you quite a few issues as you
Hmm.
age because you've been overstretching. And so there is a lot of that happens for sure. I'm probably one of
Hmm.
those people who fall
Me
into that
too. Me
category.
too.
Yeah. Um, but I do think it is better to stretch than to not stretch.
Oh, 100%. It's just doing it in the right way and
Yeah.
not for t
Not
too
excessively, of
long,
course.
maybe, you know. I know an osteopath who said he would encourage the cat type people, say the flexible ones, to
Mm.
um to build more muscle and
Hmm.
stretch in a moderate way, and the dog type people who are like they're the ones he really encourages to stretch. So like
Yeah.
there's the so that I
Get a
see I
balance.
see I see people on Instagram that would they'd have their a big following because they can do these ridiculous stretches. And I'd be like,
Mm.
I hope that's healthy for them. I hope they're not
Yeah.
going the over the natural threshold that they should be going. Because especially if you're hypermobile, you can go really far.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but uh, going back to mindfulness, the
Hmm.
yoga class was for the busiest times of my life the best thing. Like
Mm.
going into this mystical room where everything was dark and you just switch off and there's some funny smells of incense or whatever and candles lighting and you're just out of your mm, out of the normal day, out of the fluorescent lighting and the busy noise of everything. And it was the best thing ever, especially if you don't know how to, say, meditate. That's
Hmm.
where that will help you get to where you want. Um, and I remember coming home and I'd sit in silence and eat my dinner and then go to
Mm.
bed. Just complete bliss, like just out, like nothing, and not an aggressive yoga. It was like a hatha. I don't know. It was a lovely woman in her, I'd say 50s, 60s,
Mm.
and I'd say the majority of people around me were in their 50s and 60s, and it was
Yeah.
the best thing. I didn't want to go to like the aggressive one. I wanted the
Mm.
nice slow one, and it was like living like a monk coming home,
Mhm.
and just having like dimly lit um room, eating your food and silence, like, and
Mhm.
no phone, no nothing, and then just going to bed. And
Mhm.
that's the peace that I wanted in my life. And that was once a week on a Wednesday. That was the only
Sounds
very
amazing.
peaceful time. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that in Germany?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
That was during like an 80-hour work week time. So like it was literally like the only, and I was flying a lot around Europe.
Mm.
Um, it was like, have you ever seen Fight Club?
Yeah.
When the guy is Edward Norton's asleep in
Hmm.
the plane and he's waking up in different places, and I'd
Yeah.
wake up in London and then wherever Dublin, and I'd go for runs, and my brain couldn't catch up to the idea that I was
Mm.
just say I was running around Clapham Common in London, and then the next thing I was in Munich at the English Gardens running around there, and then I was in Paris, and my brain wasn't actually like, I was like, this is too much to comprehend. This is actually too
Mm,
much, you know?
mm.
Like different
Overwhelmed.
time zones, different everything, and you're just going nuts. And then I'd come home to finally come home after all the traveling, and like a Wednesday evening was just my little glimpse of peace and tranquility that I was really dying for.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be more beautiful if the rest of the week was a bit more tranquil, you know?
But you've
Um,
lived and you learned, so now you
yes.
don't do that anymore.
No, I do not. But I don't even practice yoga that much anymore, to tell you the truth. Um, and I think it like if it's just about like if it was close to me right now,
Hmm.
and if it was easy and handy, I would 100%. Like I could imagine that same class I would sign up for in a heartbeat. But where I'm situated right now, it's just not around me as much,
Yeah.
and I'll probably do a lot more of it later on again, you know.
Mm, yeah.
Um, but it's a valuable thing if you're, especially if you're looking for peace and obviously to stretch out and
Yeah.
work out.
I got in the best shape of my life just doing yoga, but that's
Mm,
another story. Like it, it it works. It's science. Like it's breath, it's movement, and I never noticed, like when I started doing yoga, I started to realize the literally like the ego in my head of like, oh my God, there is this voice that is constantly judging everything and everybody around me. Like I never
mm,
heard it so loud and so often until I was in yoga and I was like, oh my God, like how did like it's just always there and it's so judgmental. And I was like, it was the first time I got so intimate with my ego ever in my
yeah.
life. Like I had been meditating for a little bit and you get kind of aware of like how I don't want to say you have voices in your head, but again, you become the observer of where your
Hmm.
thoughts go to, what all the judgments you're going to. But yoga was like this, wow, like, okay, that's how much I'm judging. And like, that's what's going on when I'm not, even speaking. So
Hmm.
it's a great way to get intimate with your ego because I don't think we're ever going to get rid of our ego. I don't think that's possible. I don't even think it's if you're alive, like people who say they're egoless, I'm like, that's an ego thing to say, first of all. I'm sorry, Eckhart Tolle,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I think, we can be really intimate with our ego and we don't have to let it run the show. We
Hmm.
invite it over for dinner and be like, okay, what's going on? Why are we upset? Why are we trying to play
Yeah,
small? But we do not have to let it sleep in our bed and
yeah,
run the show. So, yeah.
absolutely. The that's like kind of touching on the shadow self or the dark side that Carl Jung talked about, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um, to I don't they call people an integrated human being when you integrate that side into you, so that
Mm,
you do ignore. That's probably a lot of that is your ego,
mm,
uh, and that dark side put together within you, but in a way that you feel comfortable with it because you recognize it and you go, oh, that is part of me. Like that's also why I call this sustainability for sinners. It's like
mhm.
it's to go, hey, look, I'm not this saintly figure. Um, I do have the dark side. I do have dark thoughts and all that stuff.
Of
But
course, we all judge.
yeah, as you were saying, you can hear the judgment thing
Hmm.
go off in your head the whole
Yeah.
time. Um, and to integrate it and not to subdue it so that you don't, to pretend it's not there is
Hmm.
also not good. So
Yeah.
you come into terms with the idea that you'll never stomp out the ego is actually very good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of a delusional uh, target that
I'm
you
getting rid of
live
anything.
without it. Yeah,
Mm,
no, forget it.
not going to happen. It's what also keeps me alive a lot of the time. Like it's helping me
Yeah,
know where there's danger and
yeah,
like, so I just, yeah, and I'm very big on shadow work. It's part of like what I do in my somatic like practices with my
very
clients
cool.
is integrating the unsavory parts of ourselves.
Cool.
So, yeah, that's
That's
just
that's
one little
bang
section.
on. That's bang on in line with this thing I'm going for with sustainability for sinners. Like bang on,
Okay.
because like the dark side, the just
Yeah,
to acknowledge. I think people beat themselves up a lot, trying to be better. And I think we should always probably strive to be
of
we-
course.
better and good people in your community and do honorable things, but to just acknowledge the other side, and then I work a lot on like global solutions to things. N not coming from an idealistic perspective, but just what are we really dealing with here as human beings in the world? Like how much can we actually rely on us as an individual to change in these times where we do need big change. There's a lot of mad stuff going on in the world, and I would say I'm a moderate in in my political stuff. I'm not extreme in any way, although I also believe we need radical change. But I think we all need to do it together, like a collective responsibility. And not saying that we all were responsible for getting ourselves in this situation, but we have to figure a way out of it because it is on kind of it's on a descent in most issues, so we have to steer it. But to be realistic about what we can expect from ourselves as individuals, that like I've tried to do the perfect. I've tried to I like the first book that I was going to write was about like wastelessness, like the most minimal impact on the planet I could have. And then I fell short of my own expectations constantly. So I was like, okay, this is not um this is not something that's realistic for me. And if I care deeply about all this stuff and I'm falling short and I want to write a book about it and I'm the one falling short, what does that mean for other people who may not be that passionate about this stuff? Well, then
Hmm.
we definitely have to look at this and go, there's only so much we can do as individuals, not to say we can't do anything, but to just say, okay, we need to think about realistic ways about getting out of this, and not being delusional about it or over idealistic, because then we're basing our future plans on a very rocky foundation.
Hmm.
And I guess integrating your shadow self or dark side, I don't know how you say it, but
Mm.
that like coming to terms with how we are is really going to unlock, I think, how we build our future, you know? Um,
I think it's the way to, I mean, it's obviously, you think of compassion. It's the
yeah.
only way change happens and for the good is when, if we can feel good about ourselves, we want to help other people feel good. If we don't feel good about
Mhm.
ourselves, we don't give a shit about anybody else. This
Yeah.
is why we are in the way we are, not because people are shitty people. It's because they feel shitty about themselves, is that they're in so much
Hmm.
pain that they can't see outside of their pain to help other people. It is not because they're bad
Hmm.
people. There's no
Hmm.
bad, shitty people out there. They're just hurting. And
Hmm.
why are they hurting? Like this is to me the bigger picture. It's like, it's all for me, I think it always goes back to trauma. And our childhood and being more conscious and being more aware and emotionally intelligent, emotionally mature. And it doesn't mean you're perfect, but it's about healthy conflict and healthy resolution. And we
Hmm.
are just allergic to it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. You're dead
Like
right.
because people have to take accountability of their shadow side, of their poor choices, of actually I fucked up, or actually, like I'm
Deal with
not
your
at my
shit.
best.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then not be the victim. And people
Yeah.
they don't know how to walk the line of validating their own experience that, hey, what happened wasn't okay. And like it really
Hmm.
wounded me. But and then not being the victim of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's a fine line that people have a really hard time to walk. And I get it because it's not
Yeah.
easy.
Totally.
But emotional work is, I think if people were to do more emotional healing,
Yeah.
being sustainable and being mindful and being conscious and wanting to be in community, it naturally comes because that's
Hmm.
what like our natural state is. When we feel good, we want everybody around us to feel good. It's
Absolutely.
and the same thing goes when we feel like crap. We want other people to feel like crap. We hate
Yeah.
when people are feeling great when we're feeling crap. We're like, oh God.
Yeah.
That's why we love train wrecks. This is why we love this like bad stuff because it makes
Misery
us
loves
feel
company.
better. Oh. And
Yeah.
I mean, I will say I had to put a boundary in place because I love like uh true crime because
Okay.
I love the psychology behind
Um,
it. Like,
don't take offense to this now, but a lot
oh,
more women like true crime than men. It's so
I
funny.
know,
Like
I know.
I always joke about that with the women I know. I'm like, you guys are crazy. Why do
It
you
is a
love
thing.
this? Are you planning to kill someone? Because you're
I
like
think
taking notes.
it's
Like they buried them where? And they got away with it? Okay.
And I mean, it usually is men doing the serial killing, which is interesting.
Good,
Um,
good counter.
yes,
Yeah, it's true.
but and it's usually white guys too. So,
Hey,
let's
hey, hey, hey,
call a
Katie.
thing a thing.
Stop pointing
And they're
fingers.
usually Americans. So
Uh,
we'll see. My husband is always, every time we watch the true crimes, he's like, why does this only happen in America? I'm like, I don't know.
yeah. Oh, there's some really good shows about that. What is it? What not Mindhunter? Mindhunter, is it?
I haven't seen that one, no.
Oh, watch that. Oh my God, that's great.
Okay.
Like if you have the time, it's
Yeah.
really good.
Okay.
Documents all the serial killers back in the day and goes through their like it interviews them to get into their minds to understand what a psychopath thinks like so that
Yeah.
they can solve more crimes with it. Um,
Mm-hmm. I've heard of that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. Well, I
Sorry,
would
I
love,
sidelined you or sidetracked you
that's
there.
okay. Well, I wanted to talk about, I don't know if you want to go into that book that you read about mindfulness and how he goes
Oh
into
yeah. Yeah.
how he thinks mindfulness is actually a bad thing for our very kind of like selfish society, I guess he was calling it.
Yeah,
Or you
sure.
can
Do you
explain it better because I
do you
haven't read the book. So,
okay, so the name of it, he's actually a really nice guy.
mm,
I know him. I've actually randomly been emailing him back and forth, which is quite random. Then that I realized you're doing the mindfulness thing, and it just kind of like clicked in. I was like, yeah, I
yeah.
have to talk to you about it. But his name is Ronald E. Purser, and he wrote the book McMindfulness. Um, and I'll point out that he practices mindfulness as well. He's done it for
Hmm.
decades. He oh yeah, hold on, where is it? Oh yeah, I'll just read the headline things that
Hmm.
he's said, main criticisms. So mindfulness has gone mainstream. It's now used in schools, offices, the military, and big corporations. But in going mainstream, it's lost something. Instead of being a deep practice that challenges how we live and what we value, it's been turned into a quick fix for stress or a way to boost productivity. Companies love it because it helps employees cope with long hours, stress, and pressure without needing to change anything about the workplace itself. it's become a personal coping tool instead of a practice for seeing the bigger picture or pushing for change. By focusing only on the self, mindfulness can actually distract us from the deeper systemic problems we're living in, like inequality, environmental destruction, or unhealthy work cultures. And again, Purser himself says he's not anti-mindfulness.
Hmm.
And he's practiced it for decades. He just believes that it should wake us up, not calm us down in acceptance of a
Mm.
broken system.
Mm.
I think
Okay.
we can kind of understand what he means by that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
y-
Um, I mean, he's basically saying that instead of us being, what is it when you just go along with the crowd?
Conforming?
Um,
Sheeple?
it's another word, but basically when you go along with the crowd, that you
Uh-huh.
don't speak up for yourself, you don't put up boundaries. Um,
Hmm.
like that's kind of what I guess what he's explaining it's meant to, trying to think of the word because it's like the perfect word for it. It's like almost becoming passive
Passive.
in
Passivity,
passive.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not the word I was thinking of, but it's sort of what I think what he's go sounds like what he's going for. It's making us more
Yeah.
passive
Yeah.
instead of empowered, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, like just going along and well, if, as long as it's happy and calm, then everything's okay. And
Yeah.
it's not really getting to the root, which
Yeah.
real mindfulness, I believe, does. And when you, for me at least, my experience has been the total, like it has made me go from a very unconscious person to a very conscious person. It's
Hmm.
also made me way more aware of the effects I was having on myself, people around me, and the planet as a whole. Which I never had. Like I said, like I was a smoker when I lived in New York. Like I would just throw butts on the street thinking that's where they actually belong. Like where else would you put them? Like really actually thinking that. Like, and that's even just the small little example. I like had no awareness outside of my life and whatever I
Hmm.
did. And mindfulness really, but it's so interesting because I remember when I had this email sequence about mindfulness, and one of them was about sustainability and how mindfulness and sustainability was, very cohesive.
Intertwined,
And
yeah.
yeah, and it was the least amount of people who opened it and clicked through. Because I think people are so overwhelmed by this idea that you can save the planet that it
Hmm.
just feels like too much and
Hmm.
impossible that they just don't want to go there.
Yeah.
And and I guess that plays into well, I'm just going to be kind and nice and just pass by that and just be passive and but everything's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Coping like with mindfulness is the Valium without the Valium, say,
Mm,
where, where it's everything's fine. You just kind of keep calm and carry on. Um,
mm,
but
yes.
you're dead right that that's a heavy sentence to think of that so much falls on you as the individual, that you're responsible for saving this planet. Of course, uh, people are going to feel a heavy burden of that and feel kind of overwhelmed by it, I'm sure. And
Mm,
maybe like the world is bubbling up right now in a way I've never seen it, with trouble. Like,
mm,
and I feel like people we're bombarded with information from all sides, and it's never a dull day in the news anymore. And I think people are reaching a point of exhaustion with or just mental fatigue around all these things. And like I have friends. people who believe in climate change, people who don't, people who are in tune with environmental stuff, people who don't have a notion of it and don't care. They're still funny, hilarious people. Um, but they don't. The ones that really did care, I feel like it's dipping a bit because
Mm,
there's other things bubbling up, cost of living crisis, the wars, all of these things are taking so much, and then you have, as we were saying, the stolen focus from our phones. We it's like we're drained, so
mhm.
so it's no wonder that somebody might not want to click on the sustainability newsletter. Hey, guess what? There's more heavy stuff you need to think about. Yay. You
Yep.
know? Um, and at the
Yep.
same time, if we were able to release a bit, like not be so hard on ourselves on that front and realize we need to more come together to change the system
Mm,
that's operating in the background. Um, Again, not giving us, we do have a certain amount of individual responsibility, but
mm,
that we can shift huge mountains together. That's the thing. And then have like, a clear path of why this is really important to us.
mhm,
I think that's the winner. If we go too heavy on the individual, they'll feel overburdened and quickly burn out. And people are really checking out now. I feel it
mm.
around me, like it's just too overwhelming.
It's too
So
much. It is. I
it
mean,
is right now.
I still personally think like we change on an individual level. Like we can't just expect these people on the like they're not going to do anything. They never have been for us. They never will. Like change
The
has to start from the bottom up, I think,
grassroots.
not the top
Yeah,
down.
absolutely.
Um, and that does start with the individual, but feeling, like I said, I think it really does come back to the individual feeling good enough about themselves because I'm more
Hmm.
sustainable because also it's just so much easier. Like it
Hmm.
actually declutters my life. So I don't feel heaviness when I see the news because I also don't pay attention to it. But it's like I travel light, I own less things. Like that's just lighter in my body, in my brain. I
Hmm.
have to make less decisions. Like being sustainable actually makes your life easier.
Yeah,
Because when you
yeah.
are buying and consuming so much more crap, of course you're constantly like overwhelmed with just making a decision on what to buy or what to wear. It's like, well,
Yeah.
just cut the decisions out of it. Just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
have like it actually, and again, I think we look at it at a different in a wrong way. We think that it's like this is the same thing with mindfulness. We think that it takes time for us to practice mindfulness when you can practice mindfulness anytime, like doing anything mindfully. Like it doesn't
Hmm.
have to take extra time. You're doing it right now. And like, and I don't know, like to me, it's why wouldn't you be a bit more sustainable? You're consuming less, you have less decision makings, you feel lighter, you feel like you have more focus and clarity. You
Hmm.
feel better about yourself. Like I just I don't
Well,
I don't
yeah.
know. Like plastic doesn't feel like, yes, I have a lot of plastic stuff in my life, but I try to consciously, as much as I can, have the least amount. But like nobody enjoys the feeling of plastic.
Mm. Mm.
It's like people prefer a bottled glass thing or, something that has been recycled and, this stuff feels better. And I don't know, it
What's
makes
the
more
word?
sense.
Karmic? It feels like it's karmic that, it just feels good to, it's like doing the right
Yeah,
thing.
it
It
takes less
feels good.
energy. It's the
Yeah.
same thing
Yeah.
when you're really nice to somebody and when you're really mean to somebody. It actually takes a lot more energy to be mean or to be angry and to
Mm.
be upset
Hmm.
than to just be like, all good, like no worries. I'll just open the door for you. Like it
Yeah.
takes less energy, I think, to be
Yeah.
sustainable. But we
Yeah.
think that it takes more energy. Like, no.
Yeah. Funny. It's like yeah, like w one of the things of the book or is to highlight the positives of living a more sustainable lifestyle and working towards a more sustainable future. But it's the health, it's the simplicity of it as well, as you said. Like the just say clothes. I used to buy an insane amount of clothes, insane. Um, and now I've a kind of, it's funny. I love my clothes more now than I've ever done before, and I have less of them than I've ever had. And it's like everyone's on a different scale. But I really, it's like going back to my childhood where you remember you had the favorite t-shirt or the favorite hoodie or whatever, and you wore it
Mhm.
religiously. You know, every photo was Katie with her pink hoodie or whatever it was, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm going back to that where I have the clothes that I really love wearing, and they do cost probably a bit more. I do look for long lasting stuff. It's very hard to
Hmm.
find actually. I'd love if we move more towards that. Um,
Mm.
and then you develop a kind of relationship with your clothes that would not necessarily be there if you were like, well, I need to complete my wardrobe, I need this amount of trousers that beige chinos and whatever. And you can have beige chinos you love, but do you know what I mean? If there's just way too many and not bought with any kind of I don't
Intention.
know, intention behind it, and that like, you know, I try to take care of my clothes more than I've ever done now as well. You know, it's not just it's got a rip or it's bobbled um onto the next one. Like it's let's see if we can fix this or get rid of the bobbles with a little machine. I have a little machine that cuts them
Yeah.
out. You know, goes zzz over them. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
brilliant. Like,
Yeah.
and you
So
can
good.
freshen up your own clothes.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we live in, a society that praises more and
Hmm.
consumerism. And so you have to be like a rebel to live in this way. And I think that's uncomfortable for people, um,
Yeah.
to be different and to not go along with what everybody else is doing and to be that person.
Yeah.
But I also don't think it's that like strange or far-fetched to where you're going to be shunned from society if you live in this way. But, you know,
Yeah. And you mightn't even notice it. You know, if you invest in whatever a good pair of jeans that you've like done a bit of homework on that they last, which is
mm,
again, it's quite hard to actually find these things, but you can.
mm,
Um, and if you just have kind of whatever your favorites and then a few things that you do buy more of, say if you like more t-shirts or more whatever, to switch it up. You can live with a more sustainable wardrobe that will save you money and make you look better in the long term without even um, being seen as a sustainable wardrobe because you're just picking
yeah,
the same stuff you always did. You're just picking the stuff that might last a bit longer, that'll save you
mm,
money in the long run, that you actually develop a relationship with, that
yeah,
you really enjoy. So you might have a
mm,
coat for 15 years instead of the one that looks old after two years, you know? And then you're
yeah,
like, done. I'm done. Next one.
yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of also like millionaires who, are very minimalist because
yeah.
they don't want to use the brain power to have to think about. So they wear
Hmm.
the same black shirt, the same jeans for their life. Like
Yeah.
there's ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And like it just makes life so much easier. And like
100%.
and also thinking like again, looking back at that emotional sense, why do you feel the need to want to have these things? Like what is it?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's making up for something inside of you that you feel is, not good or damaged or not going to be good enough
Mm-hmm.
if you just have that. So it's really to look inward because that's the reason why we have these unsavory choices or these unsavory lifestyles that are causing all this harm is because we don't feel good inside.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of it's filling a void, say, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I remember my first job. I won't say the specific titles because people figure it out. But it was a really, really stressful first week, and um, I'd worked a lot of hours, and I left the office, and I just went for a walk around the block, and I spotted a pair of Nike Air shoes in a shop front. And I circled around again and I went, fuck this, I'm buying it. I couldn't afford this when I was a kid, and now I'm buying the most expensive ones and ain't no thing. I'm just gonna buy it. And I did, and it felt bloody great. So I had these things at home for ages, and I was like, yeah, I can just buy these things quick snap like that now. But little did I, like, that was a big thing, and I've always liked the cool shoes and all that stuff growing up. And then but I realized like that that lifestyle or that life I was living was so not worth the being able to buy the Air Jordans or whatever it was. It just didn't compute. Like it's great if you have the money and you can buy what you really want to buy if you have access to it, brilliant. But I'd rather a life where the life itself is rewarding and fun and fulfilling and with meaning rather
Experiences,
than
not
rather
things.
than yeah rather than jumping for this thing that I can now just have because I work so hard and do a job that I'm not fully aligned with, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so that it's funny how I went through that phase and now I'm like, nah, I'd rather like save up and buy a nice pair of boots or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, instead of buying ones that I know I'll have to replace in a year's time again. That'll just look like crap because they
Yeah.
do. They like the lower down you go in the and I'm everyone has a different budget, but I know it from the shoes I've worn. Like a lot of them, just after 6 months, they just do not look good. Whereas if you buy like say a leather pair of boots that that you take care of, and maybe you replace the soles every so often, they can last forever, like the
Yeah.
longest time, and they're cheap. Like it ends up being cheaper for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just
Yeah,
thinking
they're
of office
expensive at the
shoes.
beginning. Yeah, my
Yeah.
husband
Oh, big
has like
time.
RM Williams, which is like a big Australian brand. I think he's had his for like he has a brown and a black pair, and I think probably, I don't know, at least 10 to 20 years. And he just gets the
Yeah,
sole
right.
replaced. They're
Yeah,
like
that's it.
$600, but you just get the sole replaced.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, but no, he's and wears them every day for work, like day in,
Yeah.
day out. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you'd watch like the say the directors of a company, the higher ups, they have those shoes. They're the
Yeah.
ones that are like they're actually living a more sustainable uh, closet attire thing than say the analyst that buys the say me back in the day
Mm.
that would have bought the cheaper pair of shoes with the rubber soles that I'd have to replace all the time. But when you
Yeah.
look at the amount of times I bought those shoes, a fresh new pair, and how they actually deteriorated over time and looked bad when I was wearing them,
Yeah.
I would have been better off going for saving up a bit, or prioritizing that spend over all the other nonsense in my life, and then just going once a year to replace the soles and taking care of them. And I would have looked better for it, you know?
We do officially
Probably.
knows the water they swim in. This is the thing about mindfulness and awareness. Until you have the awareness, you can't make the change. And
Yes.
but then that doesn't mean all awareness leads to change. Same thing with like suffering, right? All compassion
Mm.
comes from suffering, but not all suffering leads to compassion.
Hmm.
It's the same thing with awareness. People can become aware, but that doesn't mean they're actually going to make change.
Yeah. And like you were saying about like being practicing mindfulness for many years, without actually really getting to a level where you really are mindful, say. Like you can be
Mm.
looking at all this and be aware of it and not actually do anything. That sounds more crippling. I'd rather actually be unaware than of it
Oh,
all, you know?
I think that's why a lot
Blissful
of people
ignorance.
choose. Yeah, I think a lot of people sometimes almost get a glimpse and they're like, oh no, I'm going back to the dark side. Like, that's just too much.
Hmm. The comfortable
Yeah,
blinkers on.
abyss. Yeah,
But
yeah.
w one of the things I've played around with in my head for a while is like, the saying ignorance is bliss.
Hmm.
Is it's such a strong statement, and I understand where it comes from, and it may be true in certain cases, but in the world we're living in right now, I read this other statement, ignorance isn't bliss, it's voluntary misfortune. And that hit
Mm.
hard because I was like, yeah, do you know, like, sorry to get grim for a second, but
Oh.
the amount of chemicals that are floating around us, our food systems, the unhealthiness of things, um, all the stuff that's been shoved on us, even down to like f advice you get on YouTube for health and fitness that if you're getting bad advice or it's kind of ignorant advice, then you're actually the one that's going to pay badly for it. Like so, as we're reminded regularly, this life of ours has razor sharp edges to it. Um, so it isn't good to be too ignorant of everything around you, you know?
Yeah.
We do have to watch out. Like even, sorry, I'm going on a rant now, but even
No,
the
finish.
like takeaway coffee cups, say.
Mm. The
This is a silly
recycle thing.
example. This is a silly example, but I've oh, thousands, probably multiple thousands of cups I've gone through, and been a coffee fiend for the longest time. But w one of the things that really switched or allowed me to control this thing about getting coffee cups is actually the health impact. The waste
Mm.
is one thing. Yes, I've that's what I've always been trying to reduce. But when I realized that there was endocrine disruptors leaching off from the inside of the cups, that's when I really got the motivation to stop using them. It's
Mm.
like the Teflon pans, if they have a scratch in them or whatever, it's the exact same
I don't even
crack.
know how they're still able to sell them, period. I don't understand it. But
Yeah, yeah, and
mm.
it,
You've seen Dark
um,
Waters?
yeah, I haven't seen it actually. Mark Ruffalo,
Yeah, it's
the
great.
DuPont scandal, right?
Mm. Yep, yep.
I've looked into forever chemicals quite deeply, and not just in the Western world, but everywhere. It's madness. Like it's actually crazy how much it contaminates just the production alone. Um, like
Mm-hmm.
the apparently there's a guy, Professor Ian Cousins, who did a lot of work on forever chemicals, and
Mm.
he said the health effects are quite tough in themselves, but if you're around the industry that creates it, like
Mm.
it's impacted the US a lot,
Mm.
and Belgium and the Netherlands as well, where they had to
Oh,
like give out. like really, really strong alerts to not eat the food that was grown in the area, or the meat, dairy, eggs, and food,
Wow.
because it's literally seeping into everything, and that's from just the creation of these products.
Mm,
And now that's a lot of that's moved to China.
mhm,
But the places, say like in the US, or say Belgium and Netherlands, they've gone up into like, I don't know, 7 or 800 million euros each for the cleanups and to compensate people for the massive, massive damage that's gone on there. And now I feel very sorry for the poor Chinese that are getting these things are landing in their country, and they're
mm,
going to be creating these products. And at some point, the public are probably going to kick back as well and go, "What the hell? You're poisoning all around us. Like everything around these companies is getting poisoned." Um, but it'll take them probably the same amount of time it took us and it took the United States for people to
mm,
go, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, this is madness." And
mm,
like I just heard Aaron Brockovich shouting on um, some interview going like the US has forever chemicals everywhere. Like it's just
mm,
contaminated in such a way that's so very, very hard to get rid of. And you kind of go, we got to stop doing this. Like we got to stop putting our lives in jeopardy for what's just kind of like a handy
I mean,
product for comfort, you know?
it's a convenience. I mean,
Convenience.
convenience over consciousness. And yeah, I mean,
Mm.
it's rampant. It's out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I know you're probably big on, groups and starting like more communities around it, which is great. But I think I focus a little bit more on the self, because I
Absolutely.
think
Yeah.
that if you can shift your perspective, that shifts yours. But of course, if we can come in with more groups, like I'd love to see changes. But
Mm.
I am also one of those people who watches all the documentaries, and you see how the corporations never ever get in trouble or
Mm.
change things. They get slapped on a wrist with like some $1 million fine that is
Mm-hmm.
like peanuts to them, and it goes on. But
Yeah.
I have more faith in the light of the world. I think there's way more good than there is bad. And I also think that everything that happens is a direct result of everything we've done before. Like every cause has an effect. We didn't just get here by random. Like
Mm-hmm.
we got here by everything that we've done in the past. And it's going to
Yeah.
go the way it goes. And I think Mother Nature is a lot stronger than us humans. And she's probably just going to swallow us up or spit us out, whatever she wants to do with us,
Yeah.
or freeze us over again. I don't know. Whichever
Yeah.
one she chooses, I have a feeling she'll take care of things.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. One would like when you go into it though, you go, oh God, if we don't sort this stuff out, that's a lot of suffering, you know? Like you kind of go, hey, look, it'll quick snap end for us if we don't get our acts together. Um, but I do think it will be a slow, painful descent if we don't, if we don't, like when they joke about like, or they don't joke, but we talk about population collapse. Like we've got
Mm,
two things happening simultaneously. We've got like overpop, not, we've a massive rise in population. I wouldn't say overpopulation because I think we could live on this planet. This is Mike Berners-Lee who wrote a book, There's No Planet B. And he said we could live on this planet, 15 billion of us snuggled up beside one another and be fine. It wouldn't take, but it would only take 1 billion humans on the planet to absolutely destroy it. and ravage it. So I don't think it's about overpopulation. We frame a lot around there's not enough resources for all of us to live the way we want to. We could
Mm,
figure this out 100% if we had
mm.
circular economies, if we managed our resources
Regenerative
properly.
farming.
Yes,
Yep.
all of that stuff. We could do
Yep.
it all, and live in harmony. So the
Hmm.
idea that, like we're overly populated, I would dismiss that and go, no, we just need to have the right systems in place and be fine. Um,
Mm,
and what was I going to say with that? The overpopulation. Oh yeah, the population collapse at the same time.
mm,
People kind of say, I've talked to quite passionate environmentalists, and they'd be like, well, if we die off, we die off. And um, I'd be kind of thinking, yeah, but the dying off is going to be miserable. It's going to
mm,
be, with the chemicals. And have you heard this thing about the 1% rule that since the 1970s, there's been a 1% decline each year of fertility. So like, um, what is it? 1% in um, birth rate, 1% in um, erectile dysfunction, I think, 1% in whatever, but altogether it adds up to 50%. So we're 50% less reproductive
fertile. Mhm.
than in the 1970s, and it's just on this continual decline. And
Mm,
along with that, you have babies now. This is so grim, sorry, but
no.
I was reading this about like the doctor saying there's babies now they come to the earth pre-polluted from chemicals that are passed on from mother to child. Um, so they're likely to have worse health conditions long term from the toxicity of the environment that they were conceived in. And
Mm,
so, so this idea like, oh, well, if we die off, we die off. Yeah, but it's going to be slow. It's going to be with a lot of pain of the kids and the future generations. And it might, if we try to steer it the other way again, it might take generations to correct these things. You know, the way you
mm,
have like genetics that people are predisposed to something, that probably along the way somewhere, something they were exposed to something or not exposed to something, malnourished or whatever, and
mhm,
then their system is out of place. And I think we all have a little bit of that. Like everyone has a thing that they're unhealthy with, or that
mhm.
they're more
Trauma,
vulnerable,
wound.
or trauma. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like even health conditions themselves, like,
Yeah.
somebody might be more prone to IBS or whatever it
Mhm,
is, and it makes them, yeah, it like we're equipping our future generations if we don't get ahead of it with the chemicals. The chemicals is the issue. If you start looking into it, it's massive and it's all around us, and you're kind of going, we gotta turn this chemicals tap off, or be more responsible with it, because we're all gonna pay for it. Like everyone around us, and it's such a slow or insidious thing that's going on in the background that we're not paying attention to. And right, like I understand why we're not paying attention to it. It's a hard one to get our head around, but we would so deeply need strong laws around that stuff so that
mm,
we're not ignorantly walking around being exposed to these things that could eventually lead to the population collapse I was just talking about, you know?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's corporations. If you
Mm,
really want to look at who's pushing
oh,
for
yeah.
the policies to be loosened up so that they're confusing. They reword legislation a lot. They try to lobby
Mhm,
for rewording of legislation so that it's easier to pollute, or it's, these safety levels that they
Mhm.
increase them constantly so that they're like,
Mhm.
hey, no, we found out, look at this science. This science says
Mhm.
that it's actually way easier to have more chemicals and forever chemicals in your stuff. It's not going to harm you.
Fluoride
Don't
in the
worry,
water.
trust the science, you know? So you're
Yeah.
kind of you're like and sorry, actually as controversial as he is and a polarizing character, Robert F. Kennedy, there's a book
Hmm.
he wrote, like he's an environmental lawyer by before he went
Mm.
into politics,
Yep.
and there's a book, Crimes of Nature,
Mm.
Crimes Against Nature. It's like that book there,
Oh yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and like he documents just how in certain states the corporations have like created moats around them so
Mm.
that like they're protected against whatever. You can't sue them if you get sick, or you
Yep.
can't, like they're constantly protecting themselves more and more and
Oh
loosening
yeah.
up everything to do everything in a worse way because it's
Mm.
cheaper, more efficient or more economical. And
Yep.
the same blueprint is happening all around the world. Like they're on that job constantly. And we're not we're not really paying attention to it publicly. And I'd say
Yeah.
the mainstream news outlets, they're all kind of unfortunately influenced heavily by these corporations so that they won't
Massively.
say anything, you know? I'm
Exactly.
sure.
They only say what they were told to say. I mean, you saw this
Yeah.
happening with COVID, like you saw what they were covering and what they weren't, and how they were just fueling the fear.
Yeah.
That was the only thing they were trying to do, is just to make it more
Fan the
fearful.
flames.
Yep, yep.
Don't
And
trust the flames, just fan the flames.
disband the flames. I like that. But
No,
you can trust the
yeah,
flames
but
too.
you
I
can,
know
yeah, I'm saying, yeah, yeah.
a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I still believe in there's more good than bad, there's more light than dark.
100%.
And I also do come from a frame of mind that we're also living in some of the best times ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's less people in this world. I mean, I would have said, who have beds, who never had beds. Like, I think we
Yeah.
we kind of have, I've heard somebody call it life dysmorphia. Like we didn't have hot running water of like, I don't
Yeah.
know, 100, 200. Like we didn't have all these amenities, and like we literally, like all of this is very new. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, I don't know, people have come really, body or life dysmorphia. Like they think that
Uh,
it's so bad, and it's like, is it? Like
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we're just really used to our comforts, and I mean, it's just crazy how, you know, just spoiled we are, and how almost
Mm.
entitled we are to say that, oh my God, we're living in the worst time ever. I don't think we are personally, but I do
Mm.
think, we are making, like, we're allowing corporations and people who are just worried about money and greed to make, unfortunately, the biggest decisions for the planet, which is not good.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily think it's the worst time ever to be living. Um,
No, no, absolutely not. We
but
we're a couple of things there. We're a reactionary species,
mm,
so we do react when I know we're like, hey, when's the time to really like, push back? But there is that thing that there's a change in the air as well right now. There's a lot of excitement
mm,
because everything's up in the air right now. And when we start paying attention to things that really impact the quality of our lives in a collective way, there's huge ability to change things and pretty rapidly. Like the
mm,
majority of things we're looking at right now have only come about that we're really struggling with have only come about in the last 50 years, say.
Mm.
So we can turn these things around. I don't think the world is as doomed as people often make it out to be. The climate change
Especially with the help of
narratives.
AI and aliens.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you can use AI as a tool both ways. Don't know about the aliens yet.
Hey,
Um,
I think they'll help us.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I've thought about the AI thing a lot. You know, when you
Mm,
like, what is this thing? Um, and we need to use, like, there's an argument, of course, about water usage. They're powered by data centers. Water and electricity are two things we're really struggling with
mm,
in the majority of the places of the world. Um, and that we're encouraged not to use AI. We're encouraged not to use ChatGPT and all these things unless they're for meaningful things. And I would say, um, th so the big corporations are going to be using these things uh, very often in a destructive manner. So we need to use it as a tool in a constructive way and a defensive way. So I wouldn't, the waste less thought would be if everyone just walked away from AI, we'd be better off. But at the same time, there's people using AI full time in epic proportions for the wrong things. So we need to use it for the right things and just be mindful of using it that way.
yeah.
Sorry, my flask is buzzing away here. Um, yeah, and sorry, I've overwhelmed myself now because I've opened a load of tabs in my mind.
What
We
is-
were going on about the uh, what was it?
We can quickly turn things around
Yeah, yeah. Oh, we really
in a short
can.
amount of time.
We really can. Like, yeah, I've actually forgotten the other parts of that. But it's like, oh, sorry, but like, let's say even the climate change thing, a lot of that is like, there's a lot of fear that paralyzes us, say. And
Mm,
there's like, one thing those people that have written pretty scary books on climate change, one of the motivating factors is obviously to have their books sold or their
mm,
articles sold. And I've heard there's a guy called Michael Mann, Dr. Michael Mann, who's
mm,
one of the most kind of prominent climate change scientists out there. And
mm-hmm,
he's like, there's a book he has, The New Climate War, and he explains, like, he goes into real detail of like where these guys have gone way, way overboard,
mm,
like taking worst case scenarios, across the whole book will be worst case scenarios.
mm,
They will also play on, say, the Arctic methane bomb, which is a theory. There's no real scientific evidence behind it. It's
mm-hmm,
still a theory. So he urges us to not like play into like the deepest fears of climate change, because what that ultimately does is uh, overwhelms people, that they
mm-hmm.
become so fearful that they stop taking
Yeah.
action and they think the world is doomed.
Yep.
But when I see people making the link of like population collapse and infertility issues, they're on the ground things that we can remedy
Mm-hmm,
pretty quickly if we just minimize the exposure to the chemicals in our own lives, but also
mm-hmm,
to stop them being so recklessly dispersed in our environment around us. That's the stuff that is
mm-hmm.
the reactionary species that we can go, hey, no, we've had enough of that. We want safer products. We want to feel like we're in a safe operating environment to live, raise children. We want the future that isn't completely destroyed and all that. Like I do see that we can totally push back on that once people
Mm,
start, registering that it is in our hands, but
yeah.
they can't be crippled with fear.
Yeah.
That's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It starts with that empowerment, that personal self-reliance.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think it gets back to.
Um, yeah. Hey, will
Yeah,
we
it's 2 hours
um
in. Look at
we're
us.
2 hours in and like I could talk to you forever, Katie. Oh, by the way, I meant to say this to you a long time ago. But we were talking about like karma kind of like doing one thing and it always stuck with me. We were in Westfield Shopping Centre. I met you there. We randomly bumped into each other and we had a coffee and you paid for the coffee
Oh
and
yeah.
it was just nice. It was a nice thing to do. And
Mm.
then your book came out and I didn't know what it was going to be about, but I bought it straight away. And that was like a karma from what you had. I was like, oh, of course
Oh,
I will buy that
I
book,
love
you know?
that.
But it's
Yeah.
funny that that was that long ago that that
Yeah.
happened.
Wow. Look at that.
Um,
Yes.
yeah,
Thank
funny.
you. Thank you for that.
Before our conversation, all these kind of memories of Bondi Beach started floating up to the top as well. Like, what a
Mm,
great time! That was the best time there.
yeah.
Um,
So
I was
good.
trying to even figure out.
Have you been back since?
No, no, I'd love
Very
to.
different place.
Yeah,
Um, Pretty swanky. It's very
right.
glamorous now. Um,
Bougie.
yeah, bougie. I guess that's a word for it. I mean, Westfield is still Westfield, but if you go
Yeah,
down to the beach, yeah, it's quite,
where like icebergs is it?
yeah, but
Or
like now it's so done up and it's so, yeah,
ah,
bougie. Yeah, it's not like the
yeah.
old Bondi. Those were the
Oh,
glory days.
they were amazing. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I joke regularly with people. I don't think I've ever stopped joking about it, but like the time I was in Sydney where like probably it was only a brief period. I think it was like 6 months in total I was in Sydney,
Mm-hmm.
working in a beach road hotel. You know that
Mm-hmm.
place? And
Yeah,
it
but
was like
there's
the
so much.
best, it was the best time of my life. And
Mm.
my life has been on a decline since, if I acknowledge that as the best time of my life. No, but
The
it was
hot.
I was so carefree there.
Mm.
Yeah, and I worked my ass off in that bar. I think I did
Yep.
28 days straight with like double shifts just to like save for going up and down
Travel.
the East Coast.
Yeah,
But I had so much fun doing it. And um, you remember Daniel, do you? Daniel, the Canadian
I think
guy.
so.
We lived
Yeah, yeah.
together. We were roommates, and we
Oh
both
yeah.
worked nights. And then
Yeah.
we'd fall asleep watching DVDs or whatever on the laptop between us, and we'd wake up, right? And I'd wake up and I'd see Daniel sleeping, and then I'd wake up again. Daniel's still sleeping, so I'd just turn back to bed, and then like it'd be like 2 or 3 p.m. when I'd wake up and go, okay, I better get up. And then he goes, oh man, I just kept waking up looking at you and you were still asleep. So I was like, I'll go back to sleep. So, so we just spur each other on. This went on for months. But it was the best time ever. Just
Mm.
and like the runs to like Coogee Bay, I
Yeah.
did that like every second day. It was
Yeah.
just it's a beautiful place. I
It is.
cherish it as like a lovely memory of that time, you know?
Yeah.
Have you been back
It's
much?
I used to live there, so I went back in 2012, like 13 for a few months. And then
Mm,
it started to get like a bit nice and bougie. And then I moved back there in 2016 with my husband,
hmm.
and we were there for just over a year. And it started to get really like you could tell it was like kind of reminded me a bit of like LA, Venice Beach. And then like everybody
Oh
was,
yeah.
Instagram famous. And now, like, we still have really good friends who live in Bondi. And so we've gone back for the past, few years. And it's just more and more fancy and more bougie and more like Instagram famous. So,
Hmm.
um, but it's still beautiful. It's Bondi, right? But
Yeah.
it's just lost its I guess, innocence or untouched feel. It just
Yeah.
seems really blown up now.
Probably the city meeting the bubble of Bondi more,
Well, I
you
think the
know?
whole world knows about it now, whereas like nobody
Yeah.
really heard about Bondi back in 2010,
Yeah.
except if you've gone there. But now it's like a thing around the world. Like they're making, TV shows about it, and it's
Yeah,
just
I've watched the beach show. It's actually really funny or really
oh
fun.
the
You know the Bondi
life-saving one?
Beach? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's actually really good. I did not expect to like it. It's
Okay.
it's catchy.
Yeah.
Um but
I
do
mean,
you
that's
remember
a
the
little bit more real, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's like
yeah,
just
yeah,
emergencies and
yeah,
Irish men standing on ironing boards drunk trying to surf.
yeah, yeah, that's
You
it.
know they put on subtitles for Irish people every time. And I'm like, what the hell? Not maybe not every time, but I'm like, God damn it, you can't understand us.
I think the
Sure, I was just
Scottish
over on
is,
the.
I think Scottish is much harder to understand.
I agree, but I've met a lot
Yeah.
of Irish people that I think most folks would have a hard time
Oh, I'm
understanding.
sure of it.
Yeah.
Sure of
Oh,
it.
and do you remember the,
Yeah.
sorry, is the bookshop still there? You know, the
Yeah,
cafe
Gertrude
bookshop.
and Alice. Yep, it's still
Yeah,
there.
that was nice.
Yes.
That
Yeah,
was nice.
yeah, Gertrude and Alice is still in Hall Street.
Cool. I will have
Yeah.
to go back someday. Although I
Yeah.
feel like I'll shock myself if I do go back, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
but
don't know if you want to taint your very pretty picture of it because
yes,
it's still beautiful, but it's like it's a bit
Venice,
yeah,
Venice
yeah,
Beach style.
yeah.
Yeah.
You'll see if you
Nice.
ever go back,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
maybe
you
someday
could
I'll have
probably
a reason
Google
to.
Earth it.
Yeah. Do you know what? I might not. I might
Okay,
just, you're right.
just
Actually,
remember your
unless I
memory.
have to go back there,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
leave it as a nice memory.
Just try to remember it that way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Katie, thanks so much for this lovely conversation and lovely catching up with you. And maybe we can do it in the future again, where we cover other issues
yeah,
um, that spring to mind. Yeah,
definitely. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was so good to catch up.
yeah. Thanks. And
Thank you, and
see you soon. See you soon.
yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning into this conversation. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please hit the follow button, and so you'll see more of my content in the future. It would really mean a lot to me because I'm just starting out. Thanks, and see you soon.